Am I the a-hole for making a pregnancy jar? My husband and I have been married for 6 years. Still don't have kids, we want them but it's still not happening. Friends and family are causing us constant stress about having a baby soon, but it's obviously something we can't control. We only wish that they'd stop, but to no avail. So what I did was come up with idea, stupid I know, and that is have an empty jar and call it pregnancy jar. I carry it with me in my bag whenever I'm with friends and family, and every time someone asks about when my husband and I are gonna have a baby, I pull my jar out and ask them to drop $1 in there for asking. I'd get puzzled looks, but they reach out for their pockets/wallets/purses and pull out $1 and out it inside the jar. It actually worked because most of THRM stopped asking after 4 months. Last week we had dinner at my parents' house. My brother came back from his business trip that lasted a month, and while we were eating he asked when me and my husband were going to have a kid. My husband paused. I got up from the chair and made my way to where my brother was sitting with my jar in my hand and asked him to drop $1 for the question he asked. He stared at me, then laughed nervously, asking if I was being serious. Everyone was looking at us. He said no, he didn't have to pay me, but I told him he didn't have to ask either, so here we are. I could tell he felt embarrassed. He immediately reached out to his pocket, pulled out his wallet and put $1 in my jar. I made my way back to my seat and sat down and resumed eating like nothing happened. It got awkward afterward. Mom pulled me into the kitchen later to tell me that I embarrassed my brother in front of his wife and family and said I should quit acting childish by running around with a jar demanding others to put money in it. I told her they should quit asking then. She went on about how they're just worried for us since we are in mid-30s and don't have much time left if we want at least one healthy baby. I got upset and she started arguing. My husband and I left and we haven't seen them in days, except I got a call from my sister basically siding with Mom and the others saying I'm being childish. So am I the a-hole for this? Not the a-hole. How creative. I don't have to pay you. Yeah, well, you didn't have to ask something that's none of your business, but here we are. Love it. Everyone sucks here. Anyone who can't mind their own business about your family plans is rude. But the jar is super rude too. If it were at your house, on display, and you had specifically said that anyone who mentions you having a baby has to pay, then it would be annoying but fine. Carrying it around to prove a point and expecting people to pay you isn't any less rude than them asking you private questions. You're stooping to a level that should be beneath you. Honestly, if I saw you ask someone to pay $1, I'd laugh at you too. Be an adult and remind people it's not their business if you don't want people asking. Will I be the a-hole if I cancel my daughter's celebratory trip because I need to be somewhere else? I have always promised my daughter that after her final exam results, UK, kids are on their last week, she can finally travel alone and take a holiday with her friends before uni. My daughter and her friends have been planning it for a while, and me and the other girls' parents are funding the trip and are all excited for them to finally travel on their own. They have planned it to be a week long. But I have just found out that my sister will be having her first child, my nephew, and has invited me to spend the week with her partner and the baby. And it's the same week my daughter would be away. And I desperately want to be with my sister and spend time with the newborn, but it would mean traveling across the country for a week. Where my sister lives is further into the countryside and often has dodgy reception, so chances are I wouldn't be receiving many calls there. I feel pretty uncomfortable with my daughter being away when I'm not home, because what if she had an emergency and needed me to come get her? I probably wouldn't get her calls, and if I did I wouldn't be in the right position to plan something for her. Obviously the ideal situation was for me to be at home, so I could be easily accessible to her. Will I be a huge a-hole if I withdraw my daughter from the trip? She has been looking forward to it for years, but my nephew will only be a newborn once and my daughter has her whole life to travel. Will I be the a-hole? I'm very stressed out about this, but I'm pretty sure of my decision to withdraw her. Just want to make sure I won't hurt her. Looks like you're staying home then. You're the a-hole. 17-year-old me, you're the a-hole stomp stomp. 30-year-old me, not the a-hole with daughter's safety being put first. I wouldn't say a huge a-hole, but be prepared for some drama. However, keep in mind that your daughter won't be traveling alone, she would be with her friends, and other parents could step in to help her in the event of an emergency. So, if you want my advice, let her go. Am I the a-hole for being upset about the birthday gifts I got from my kids and husband? I feel guilty for being upset about this, but being raised by a narcissist I tend to feel guilty about all my feelings, so I'm here to ask for Retta's opinion. Today is my birthday. I don't typically expect a whole lot. We have a tradition where the birthday person gets to pick the day's activities and dinner and one gift from each family member. I love this. For my birthday I chose to spend the weekend at our cottage and dinner out at a local pub type place. Yesterday I had to pack everything and clean the house before we left. Apparently I was also expected to remember and pack my own gifts, which was admittedly annoying. I woke up this morning and after a couple hours I had to remind my husband and kids, 7 and 12, that it was my birthday. They responded not with a happy birthday but a yeah we know, while my husband laid there on his phone. Emo, he should have not only said happy birthday himself, but I feel it was his responsibility to correct the shitty attitude of the kids. I start coffee and prep for making breakfast. I sit down with my coffee and open my gifts. Background: I was a little bit nervous because a couple weeks prior my husband has informed me that he maxed out his credit card. When I probed for more info, he explained that he got carried away with my birthday. One of the gifts was something that I had asked for, and was great. But I felt so insulted by the other two. The other two gifts were toys. Toys that I had mentioned getting for my kids. I do not collect toys, these are 100% for my kids. My husband had asked me for a list months ago and I had given him about 20 ideas, nothing expensive, just things I wanted for me. I don't feel like I even particularly needed anything on the list, just something picked out with thought, for me though. He didn't even remember to bring, or remind the kids, the homemade cards they made, my favorite part. I went back to preparing breakfast for everyone and then my husband wanders into the kitchen expecting a thank you and a hug and I just couldn't do it. I'm so frustrated and angry. I feel invisible. After 17 years together he didn't know that I do not collect toys? I'm now sitting in my room with the door closed trying to compose myself, feeling guilty for crying over gifts. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, it's not about the gifts, it's about the lack of thought. Sounds like it probably won't change after 17 years. Try focusing on the positives or get ready for some difficult conversations. Crying over gifts, really? Stop taking the selfish approach and maybe think about the things that were done earlier that week. You're the a-hole. Those gifts were from your children. Did you expect small children to buy you the gifts that you want? You're lucky they got anything. Am I the a-hole for ruining dinner with my joke? So my husband and I recently moved back to his hometown and bought a house near his parents. So we decided to host his family for dinner. I cooked up a few dishes, including French onion soup. The soup was a hit. His mom asked me for a recipe, and I jokingly said that the secret ingredient is my tears, because onions. His mom stopped eating, stared at me. I tried to ease the tension by explaining that it was a joke, but she didn't respond. After a few minutes they got up and left. I knew she was strict about knowing where her food came from, making sure that they're organic and non-GMO and such. We actually went grocery shopping with her before dinner as reassurance. But I didn't realize an obvious onion joke would set her off. My husband has been trying to get her to talk to me but she refuses. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. That's actually a pretty funny joke. And even if she didn't understand it initially, she should have been receptive to your explanation. She sounds like a pain. Not the a-hole. Massive overreaction. It makes me wonder if she wasn't just looking for an excuse to antagonize with you and pick the first, lamest thing that happened. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my child-free eldest a family heirloom and giving it to my second eldest? I have two daughters which are now grown up. One is 24 and does not plan on children, and one is 23 with a 1-year-old daughter and frequently tells me she wants another one day. I am happy for both of my daughters and support both of them infinitely. However, my great-grandmother has a necklace from roughly the 1880s which her mother had given her, and supposedly told her son before she died she wanted it passed on the family, which it has been. It was usually given to the eldest. It's now worth quite a bit of money. My eldest daughter and I were talking in which she expressed interest in inheriting the necklace. When I asked her why she seemed so keen to get it, she started talking about the nice holidays she could have with the money that she wouldn't normally be able to afford. I reminded her it's not to be sold, it's to be passed along the family as a sentimental piece, in which she said she will not be having children and therefore there will be nobody to pass it to. I suggested that she give it to her niece, in which she shut down saying it's her necklace and she can do what she wants with it. There's no specific family rule saying it belongs to the eldest, that's just how it's traditionally done. So I am set to give it to my second eldest, who was delighted to keep it a family heirloom and give it to her daughter. My eldest is furious, claiming that I had promised her the necklace from a young age, which is not true as she was never promised anything, and that I gave it to her sister because she's more traditional and gave me a grandchild. She said that the necklace would have given her a chance to make memories with her partner, which she can't usually afford due to her salary being low, while her sister has money anyway and wouldn't need it. She said the woman who asked for it to be passed along died over 100 years ago and isn't alive to miss it. She's refusing to speak to me and her sister for accepting it. The only choice of hers I take issue to is selling the necklace that was supposed to be passed along. I love my daughter, but I believe she is being entitled, but I do not want to lose her over this. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You're not giving it to your older daughter because she's child-free. You're not giving it to her because she's planning to sell it. Very different things. Not the a-hole for not giving it to your eldest when she said she would sell a prized family heirloom. Am I the a-hole? My hill to die on. I have a stripper pole in my bedroom because I like to pole dance for fun. Am not very good at it lol, but I get better with practice. I also babysit my 4-year-old niece every other weekend Friday to Sunday because my bro and sister-in-law work. I love this arrangement. I get plenty of time with my little love. When she is there I don't practice on it. But it's a pain in the ass to get down, so I just leave it. My niece asked my what is was for, so instead of lying I told her I use it for exercise. When her mom was working out at home yesterday, she suggested that she exercise on the spinny pole that Auntie has in her room. My sister-in-law freaked out and told me when her daughter is here I am to take the pole away and it's not optional. I said no, obviously. Because she's 4 and doesn't know it's a stripper pole. She doesn't know what a stripper is, she just knows that I exercise on it. My sister-in-law has a long history of being demanding when it comes to my niece. So now she's threatening to stop my time with her. I am willing to make this my hill to die on because I keep her overnight for free. But now I leave my bro without childcare when they need it the most. I just want him to have his wife calm down. Not the a-hole. She's 4, tell her it's a fireman pole. Am I the a-hole for refusing to care for my grieving husband? I, 56 female, am married to dear husband, 59 male. I have multiple chronic illnesses. Our labor division had been, me, 36 hours week, 60% housework, 75% cooking. Dear husband, 60 hours week, 40% housework, 25% cooking, all shopping. 4 months ago mother-in-law was diagnosed with a terminal illness. I took over everything, and was packing up mother-in-law's house while working. My mother-in-law is wonderful, and dear husband was always good me, so I never complained during this hard time. A month ago, mother-in-law passed, and my husband sank into grief. He hasn't worked, hasn't showered, and hasn't eaten unless forced. I planned the funeral, stored things, and sold the house so dear husband didn't have to. Dear husband has PTO, so I'm not worried about him losing his job, but I have tried to encourage him to get out of bed and come sit with me and do things. While mother-in-law was still with us, I began suffering multiple acute flares, leaving me exhausted, dizzy, and vomiting multiple times a day. My doctor gave me meds and told me to rest, but I was still vomiting and had so much to do. Monday, everything gave out. I passed out at work. I was concussed, my head split open, I was covered in blood, I vomited all over myself and aspirated, and on top of that, I lost continency. The doctor said that I was so overworked, my body hit the reset button and I needed to take off at least 2 weeks to recover. I was mortified and upset, and I just wanted dear husband to bring me a clean change of clothes and hold my hand. He said he was too tired to drive, so my best friend Carol went over to pick him and the clothes up. I was surprised when she came back alone and said he wouldn't get out of bed. I said, at least he picked out my clothes, and she said he didn't, she did. I was in for several days for fluids, medication, and observation. Carol came and saw me every day, but dear husband didn't visit once and was tired when I called. Carol drove me home, she helped me in and told dear husband very sternly to take care of me. He waited until she left and then laid into me for leaving him for days and how he starved and how the bathroom was filthy and I needed to clean it. I lost it. I started sobbing, which shocked him because I'm not a crier, but I screamed at him that I'm sorry his mom is dead, but he could have lost me, too, and he didn't act like he cared. I told him I was done because I worked myself to near death for him. He needed to get his shit together and help around the house again, not the other way around. He sat there in shocked silence, and I told him if he had nothing to say, I was going to call Carol. I'm currently at Carol's house and will be hiring a home care nurse for the next week so Carol doesn't have to look after me, but I just feel like an awful human being for screaming and devaluing the loss of his mom, but I also feel so heartbroken for the way I was treated. Not the a-hole, and when you start to feel like you miss him or your relationship, remember that you were in hospital for days, which is no small thing, and his primary concern was that the bathroom was messy and he had to get his own food. Your partner needs to be committed to a mental health facility until he gets his shit together. He's lost the ability to human. This isn't grief, it's ideation. Am I the a-hole for getting very mad at my friends for trying to get me to drink at a get-together? I, 23 male, am a recovering alcoholic. I haven't drank in a bit over a year. Being sober is very important to me and I don't want to ever drink again. Anyway, my friends from high school invited me over to one of their houses. I was conflicted at first but I hadn't seen them in a while so I said whatever and went. I found out they were drinking when I showed up, which I expected and didn't really mind because I'm at the point where I'm comfortable going to events with alcohol. Anyway, they kept asking me if I was gonna drink and I told them no and explained why but they didn't get it. Eventually after they realized I wouldn't change my mind they shut up about it for a bit. I asked my friend who was hosting if he could grab me a water so he came with a Poland Spring bottle. When I opened it I didn't hear the cap click so I got sketched out and I smelled it and it was vodka. I told him that was so not cool and just got up and left. I got a bunch of texts, saying it was just a joke but I ignored them. When I got home I told my girlfriend who's also in recovery about it and she said I should never hang out with them again. I thought that might be a little far but I think they were very in the wrong. They seemed to think I was the a-hole for apparently overreacting though? Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole but they are and they aren't your friends. Sobriety isn't a joke. Your GF is right. Not the a-hole. But maybe talk to a couple of them while they are sober and explain why this is important to you. Then you can let them go if they can't understand. Congrats. Good for you for making a solid choice and leaving an unsafe place. Am I the a-hole for reporting my ex-BF to the police? Me and my ex-BF split up at the end of September last year after around 9 months together. He was living with me. When he left, he took an iPad that I let him use, even though I said not to. For a couple of months he said he'd pay me for it as it is on contract that I pay. He paid 2 payments since September, and every time I contact him he ignores me. I asked him to return the iPad to me multiple times, but I just get ignored. He's now blocked me on all social media, so I'm unable to contact him. I'm stuck paying for this iPad until 2025, so I really want it back so I can sell it. I reported it as stolen to the police and now they are handling it, but one part of me feels bad as I don't like to cause drama, etc., but the other part feels I'm being walked all over. So am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. This is exactly what needed to be done. He shouldn't have taken it in the first place, or at the very least, he should have stuck with your payment agreement. He brought it on himself, especially after blocking you, as to try and keep the device without paying. You're the a-hole. This is a civil matter, not a criminal one. You had an agreement that he would pay you and he didn't. That's a small claims court situation. Calling the police on people is low. Your safety wasn't in danger.